Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Unsolicited with Faith, the show where I give you my unsolicited advice and opinions on life and pop culture. First off, I just want to acknowledge something. When this video goes up, I think I will have uploaded every week for 3 weeks in a row. And that's a big deal for me. And I know for other people that's like, oh, no. For me, this is like I just climbed Everest. I'm not even lying. I just wanted to acknowledge that. Can we get a little? Yes, thank you. Okay, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like the years between your late teens to early to mid, maybe even late 20s, feels like you're constantly being presented with like a crossroad after crossroad after crossroad of how your life is going to look like 10, 20, 30 years from now. And I feel like recently I've been kind of knocked off course with who I say I want to be and who I actually am. And so I kind of just wanted to make this video for those who are like me and feel in their hearts that they are meant to take the path less traveled, and reconciling with how to do that and mentalities I've been carrying to try to give me peace of mind on what that's supposed to look like. Part 1. I am large, I contain multitudes. So the idea for this video actually came from a quote that my friend Hope loves. It's from a poem called Song of Myself by Walt Whitman. Now, the poem itself is very old, with very old language. I am not a fan myself, but I think that line specifically is so good whenever I find myself immediately contradicting myself. Like, say for instance, have just been talking about how I need to save money with my friends, and then I immediately go out to In-N-Out, get the animal style fry and the milkshake. Hey, I am large, I contain multitudes. Or my personal favorite, saying how much I hate online dating and how I'm never ever gonna do it again, and then immediately downloading Hinge. I am large, I contain multitudes. You can't blame me. And I think this whole idea of immediately contradicting yourself within a short period of time reminds me a lot, for some reason, of Addison Rae and her whole rebranding situation. For those of you who actually have lives, Addison Rae is a pop star, I guess you could call her now, but prior to that, she was mostly known for her TikTok videos. She had a huge following, and the types of content that she made was just that. It was just content. It didn't really have a lot of substance, mostly just her lip syncing and dancing and being pretty. And she was really the face of a side of the internet that was very palatable. She not only was a part of the mainstream, but she kind of defined the mainstream of what it meant to be pretty, popular, and well-liked. But up around a year ago, she started venturing out with her music career, and I don't think anybody could have predicted the level of whiplash that her entire brand took. I think when you think of Addison Rae music prior to this year, you would have thought of something extremely poppy and manufactured, whereas I personally think her album, Addison, that she came out with this year is one of the most authentic pop albums I have ever heard. But anyways, I think what really just resonated with me, not only with her whole aesthetic and vibe and art that she created, I think her music is insanely good, but her willingness to switch gears so boldly and publicly and doing it in a way that was actually successful was extremely inspiring to me. It reminded me that we are all allowed to change and evolve, especially publicly and without apology. And I think that this is why I tend to feel a little anger towards people who don't like Addison Rae because of her rebranding, because I think the argument for her case specifically is that if this is who she pretends to be now, who she was before wasn't real. And I don't think that's necessarily true. In one of her songs, I can't remember which one off the top of my head, but she says the lyric, "And the girl I used to be is still the girl inside of me." I don't think Addison Rae has ever pretended a day in her life, really. I mean, I think she may pretend just as much as the next person, but I don't think her growing and her exploring different sides of her invalidates the version of herself that she used to be at all. And I also wrote something that I really liked, so I'm just gonna go ahead and say it off of my laptop because I'm a writer, what can I say? I also think there is a level of misogyny in there. I think women are expected to meet a patriarchal expectation, one that Addison met very, very well previously on her TikTok during that 2020 era. It is ironic that once she broke out of that persona, that people began to say she was putting on a mask instead of taking one off. I also think that Addison Rae's rebranding ties a lot into Anna Howard's video, Fear of Being Misunderstood. I've already talked about Anna Howard on my channel once. Please go watch her videos. I think they're incredible. But in that video specifically, she talks a lot about how she feels a need to over-explain and give a lot of disclaimers about what she's trying to say out of fear of being misunderstood. And I think that fear is so genuine. I think that we all are afraid of being made out to be frauds. But the truth is that we simultaneously are and are not. Everyone is putting on a show. We are all trying to figure out who we are as people because it's all fabricated if we think about it more deeply. Okay, I keep getting sidetracked, but in Anna Howard's video, she also talks about how she has shifted her perspective of trying to make art instead of content. She defines art as something that is up for interpretation, a conversation, something that is open-ended, whereas content is clear, concrete, and shows you exactly what it's trying to say. And I think that it's really important to remember that we are art. We are not content. I think because so many people do make content and so much of the media that we digest nowadays is content, we forget that we are actually not supposed to know exactly what it is we are, as people, as identities, that we are open-ended, ever-evolving, progressing pieces of organisms that all together create something beautiful and something that is more like art rather than content. Guys, I'm feeling really sentimental in this video. Part 2. Born to be different. Okay, stay with me for this part because it's about to get real woo-woo, but I promise you there is a point and it is based in reality. So in 2021, Marina came out with this song, Ancient Dreams in a Modern Land, and I remember listening to the chorus of the song. And the chorus, by the way, goes, I am not my body, not my mind or my brain, not my thoughts or feelings, I am not my DNA. I am the observer, I'm a witness of life. I live in the space between the stars and the sky. And I really love this part of the song, and also the part right before it that says, you don't have to conform, you are not here to perform. Just, But at the time when this song came out, I remember listening to it and not really understanding what it is she was saying. Like, I heard the lyrics, I felt it in my brain trying to compute, but still falling short. Like, what do you mean I am not my body, my mind, or my brain? What do you mean I am not my thoughts or feelings? What do you mean I am not my DNA? But it wasn't until recently that I started understanding and learning about the ego that I understood what she was trying to say in the song. So there are a few different definitions of the ego. The most common one that I think people understand is the Freudian theory one. In Freudian theory, the ego is basically a combination of your internal instincts and your external circumstances coming together to try to form an identity. Now, the spiritual definition of the ego, which I think is the definition that she tried to use in the song, refers to the ego as the barrier between us and the universe. It's basically the idea that we all have access to the knowledge and capabilities of the universe, but because we are so trapped in our identities as the mind or the body or the DNA, that it prevents us from utilizing and experiencing things to its full capacity. And it doesn't really matter which definition you prefer for the sake of this video, but if you are more interested in the spiritual definition, I would suggest the movie Inner Worlds, Outer Worlds. It is free here on YouTube and it's very interesting, so yeah. But anyways, The idea of you, the idea of your name or your ego is just a synopsis of who you actually are. And as soon as you define yourself as your ego, you are preventing yourself from experiencing the fullness of life and the fullness of who you actually are and your highest potential. I am currently reading The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, and in it he says, identification with your mind creates an opaque screen of concepts, labels, images, words, judgments, and definitions that block all relationship. It comes between you and yourself, between you and your fellow man and woman, between you and nature, between you and God. And I wrote another little part that I think is really good, so I'm just going to read off of that. In this case, I define God to be that thing inside you that possessed you to click this video, to go against your better judgment, to fail to meet the expectations of spectators and loved ones, to try something different, to try being you. Part 3. Try being you. I think that there is a really large fear of inconsistency at this age, which is really interesting because it's also the age that you're supposed to be trying to figure things out. I think a lot of my high school and even college years, I don't want to say were wasted, but could have been better utilized if I had allowed myself to follow that God inside of me, that voice, that intuition, however you want to call it, that wanted me to make the YouTube channel or write the song or start the Substack or try to experiment with writing. And I do think I allowed myself to try to do all of those things, but sometimes it's really difficult to remember that it's more so about the journey than it is the destination. I don't think the destination should be the success or the accolades or the praise that you get from your family or even just being able to say that I did it. I think the real success and the real point of it all is having the certainty within yourself of knowing that this is what I'm supposed to do and I'm satisfied with it. I think the other reason why it's so important to just be you and to give yourself permission to be who you want to be, because otherwise that projection, that anger and resentment that you feel within yourself from confining yourself and not going after everything you want in life is going to trickle over into other relationships. I think that's why parents tend to force their kids into subjects and careers and hobbies that they don't enjoy because they need their children to live the life that they wanted or the life that they feel they're supposed to live because they've had to sacrifice them so much themselves. And I think that resentment is a quiet killer of love and relationships. I don't think that it makes sense to try to stay with the same career or the same company or the same person, sometimes even your entire life, just because you're afraid of being inconsistent, of challenging your own identity or other people challenging it. Because there's no right answer. You get to decide. That's the cool part, you know? We forget that so often. The free will part of life. It goes both ways, but if you focus on the good of it, it can be amazing. And as soon as you trust that and you learn to trust it, which can be a journey in itself, there's so much beauty that comes out of it. You can run away from a lot of things, but you can never run away from yourself. Choose you. Every time. Every time. Okay, I think that's all I have to say today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm going to continue posting regularly. I'm going to have another Faith in the Streets coming out soon. The last one I posted did terrible, even though it was literally my favorite video. So if you haven't seen it, please go watch. And if you have any suggestions on what kind of videos you would like to see, please feel free to comment and like down below. Okay, I love you all. Goodbye.